So my article was called Making Mathematics Meaningful, and it was done in 2014 by Chris Brow and Nigel Calder, and they're from the University of Waikato in New Zealand. So this article started out talking about how important it is to teach students that math is everywhere. From the time they wake up, when they look at their alarm clock that's using math, when they calculate in their heads how many minutes they have left to sleep in, and also even measuring your cereal in the morning is math. It also focused on asking if us as teachers, if our teaching reflects real-life problem-solving skills that students will actually use in the future. And we all know that math doesn't get much time as it should be spent on in the classrooms, so it's important that we use that time that we have to teach math in a meaningful way that students will actually use in their future. It also talked about how when students have real-life problems, they're more engaged and they take ownership of their learning because they know that they'll use it in the future, and it's actually meaningful. So this article focused on two different scenarios that uses student-centered curriculum integration, which basically means that teachers partner with their students. So this kind of looks like the students ask questions about what they wonder about and want to learn more about. And then the teacher takes those questions and determines which ones have good learning potential and that are worthy of further inquiry. And the teacher also has to consider what scaffolding and teaching methods that they'll have to use to further that learning and to use in their inquiry. So the first scenario was about a school that had a drainage problem. And it was in a first or second grade classroom that had a window. And there was a yellow digger outside. So, of course, all the students were running to the window to see what was going on because they thought it was so cool. And the teacher thought to herself, this would be a really good learning opportunity for my students. So she took them outside and had them ask questions to the worker. And one of the questions was, how deep of a hole are you digging? And he said 4 meters. And the students kind of shook their heads, kind of looked confused because they don't know how deep 4 meters is. So the teacher thought this would be a great opportunity to teach measurement. So she had the students predict how long 4 meters is. So she had them show her how long they thought that 4 meters was, and then she showed them how long it actually was. So the students could actually use that measurement in a real life setting to see that that measurement was actually how deep the hole was going to be. So this way the students are more engaged because they initiated the inquiry. They were the ones wondering about it. So they were engaged and took ownership of their learning. The second scenario was about a classroom of fifth or sixth graders, and they wanted to change their classroom, make it bigger, and some wanted to make it a different shape even. So the teacher thought this would be a great idea to teach measurements, how to measure area and volume. So she had them measure their classroom, the area and the volume, and then she had them draw a floor plan of what they wanted the classroom to look like in their notebooks with measurements written alongside of it. So these two scenarios, the teachers didn't predetermine the content. They were student initiated, and that way the students were more engaged and they just worked harder because it was their idea, and they knew and they found relevance in the skills that they were being taught. So a way I can use this in my classroom is I can look for teachable moments. When my students are asking questions, I can think, okay, how can I use this as an inquiry to further their learning, to make it more meaningful. And it also helps me think, if I have an idea, like these teachers did, just to take a risk, because if the students get something out of it, it's going to be worth it. An idea I had was, I want to teach around 3rd grade level, so if I could do a playground equipment design project and have students design a piece of playground equipment. And so we would go outside, measure the playground equipment that we already had, and say a student wants to design monkey bars. We would measure how high that piece of equipment would have to be, so the student's feet don't hang on the ground. So that would be a great way to teach measurement to my students that they would be engaged about, because they actually get to experiment and be involved in the inquiry. So to sum it all up, student-centered curriculum integration is a great way to keep students engaged and actually make math meaningful in your classroom.